What is going on, guys? JD from New York here. This is part number 2 of number 121 of the number 1 fucking podcast in your subscription boxes right here on YouTube.com. This is Off The Script, and I felt like a fucking umpire, ready to call you out, man. Jesus Christ. Here we are, Off The Script. Got a lot of stuff to go over. Thankfully, there's some fucking news today, because at the end of last episode, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to fill 3 episodes with the amount of news that I have this week, and luckily, there were some stories. I got news on, I got a big story on American Alpha and why they lost the NXT Tag Team Championships at Takeover. Guess who made the call? You're not going to fucking figure this one out. I'll tell you in a little bit, man. But thank you guys so much for watching me here. Episode 121, part number 2 for your Saturday, June 11th, 2016. Before we get into the news, you guys know the drill. Twitter and YouTube. Follow me, JD from NY206. Barber Shop Window. Get your t-shirts, man. We are the official partner now of Barber Shop Window. You're going to see a little drop-down tab on the home screen. You're going to see official partners. Then you're going to see Off The Script right there, front and center, man. Get your new merchandise. The Get Off My TV version 3. You got Goon City version 2, version 1. The original OTS t-shirt. Everything is there for you guys. That's barbershopwindow.com. And I got big news coming up within the next week and a half regarding Barber Shop Window. You're not going to want to miss what I'm about to tell you, man. Big deals going on coming up this summer. So if you're going to wait to get a t-shirt, now is the time to do it, man. I'll fill you guys in within the next week and a half once I get okay from Pro Wrestling Tees and Barber Shop Window. But if you guys want to go get your t-shirts, you can do so. Get them as gifts. Get them if you want to. Whatever the case may be, man. But I got big news coming up, so stay tuned for that. What else we got? We got WrestleCrate.com. You guys know the deal about WrestleCrate. Instant 10% off. JD sent me coupon code at checkout. That's for the Ultimate Crate and the Standard Crate. So that's WrestleCrate.com and on Twitter at WrestleCrate. I got the iTunes podcast is up. Thank you to all that listened thus far and for the kind words reaching out to me on Twitter. I see and read everything, even though I may not answer you guys. I'm fucking constantly throughout the day bombarded with tweets. Plus, I'm at work. I can't be on my phone all the time, but I do see everything. Thank you to those who listened and reached out and said some very nice things about the podcast. If you guys want to go listen to that, iTunes, PodBean, Stitcher Radio, AudioBoom, and Google Play Music. And if you guys are on iTunes, don't be afraid to leave a 5-star rating. We are now over 150 ratings. We are a 5-star rated fucking podcast on iTunes, man. All thanks to you guys. Thank you so very much. And finally, Wrestle Rumble's coming back, man. JD placed number 3 for Extreme Rules, man. I was in the top 3. There was a 3-way fucking tie for 3rd place, and I came in 3rd place, man. I won $25 for WrestleRumble.com. They're holding another one for Money in the Bank. But they're doing something special, man. If you guys go to WrestleRumble.com, you can create your own video, your own predictions video, man. It's got to be 45 seconds long, okay? You're going to simply state who you think is going to win the Money in the Bank briefcase and why, and be creative with it, but make a video, 45 seconds long, who's going to win it and why, and if you are chosen, not only do you get a free entry into the pool for Money in the Bank to win even bigger money, but you're going to get a free t-shirt of your choice from ProWrestlingTees.com. Take advantage of this now. Submissions have to be in before Friday. So go and do that, man. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be entering this motherfucker, man. So I'm going to get my video out. I want you guys to do the same. And if you're not chosen, you can always sign up for an entry. WrestleRumble.com. Take advantage, man. Put your knowledge to the test and win some fucking money like I did for Extreme Rules. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's get on with the news, Brother Miro. Yes, and we are definitely going to be doing Slammiversary. I just got to figure out where and when and how I am going to be watching it. And you guys convinced me, goons, I will be watching the Ospreay versus Ricochet match whenever I get a fucking chance this weekend, just to see what all the hype is about, and hopefully I could do it before Sunday's Off the Script, and I can give you guys a review of the match. So let me know if you guys want to see that. Ospreay versus Ricochet. JD will watch the 20 minutes that everybody's fucking talking about. It's funny that I was listening to Solomonster yesterday, man. I just finished up his podcast for last week. He was talking about the match, and he says it was a great match. And he mentioned Vader. Vader talking about the match. He thought it was a fucking circus. He's like, what has professional wrestling come to nowadays? Vader fucking hated the match. You know, then he mentioned guys like fucking Jim Cornette not liking the match. And he mentioned William Regal, who was supportive of the match and thought it was great. So, you guys convinced me with some of your comments on yesterday's video. I am going to try and watch it. I think it's on YouTube, some of you stated. So, I will try and check that out, and I will give you guys my personal opinion of Ospreay versus Ricochet. I don't know. I don't know, man. Hopefully I like it. Hopefully I like it. Anyway, let's get on with the news, man. We got stories on AJ Styles, American Alpha, and Brock Lesnar, also Bray Wyatt. But I am going to start off with this, man, because this is very interesting. It's not the top story for today, but American Alpha. We all know they lost the NXT Tag Team Championships on Takeover to the Revival, one of my favorite tag teams in all of WWE. In one of the best tag team matches WWE has seen in quite some time, Chad Gable and Jason Jordan pulled out all the stops, but still went down in defeat. The Revival are now, and the first and only two-time NXT Tag Team Champions. After the match concluded, a new team led by the great Paul Ellering in the Authors of Pain decided to make their presence in NXT known by attacking American Alpha after the match. The plan is that American Alpha will eventually fight the Authors of Pain at some point in the future, possibly at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Regardless of when they do, it does look like things changed a lot for them at NXT TakeOver. According to the Wrestling Observer, the plan for the tag team title match at TakeOver was for American Alpha to retain. However, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon called for the title change. Vince McMahon said yes to the Revival and for American Alpha to drop the tag team championships. The reason for this change by Vince McMahon was because it appears he wants Jason Jordan and Chad Gable to be called up to the main roster very soon. Due to the upcoming draft, the rosters for WWE Raw and SmackDown will be split. This means there will be a need for new stars to come up from NXT, with the need to continue refreshing the tag team division. American Alpha make a lot of sense to call up. Their popularity out of NXT very well could help them on the main roster, as fans have taken quite well to the duo, really, since their team formed last year. Chad Gable has the charisma for days and mic ability that will surely help him on the main roster. Meanwhile, Jason Jordan is built like a true McMahon favorite with improving mic ability. Both are terrific in-ring technicians, both been standout amateur wrestlers. Gable even competed for the United States in the Olympics. The last Olympic wrestler hired by WWE was obviously the one and only Kurt Angle, and he did pretty well for himself. Many relate Gable to Kurt Angle already, so the hope is that he can succeed just as much. According to Cage Side Seats, WWE is planning to call up several people to the main roster soon, which we've been reporting here on the channel. That means the early call for American Alpha won't be the last for NXT. The plan for the NXT call-ups is to work with NXT for a bit after that call-up. WWE has already began taping episodes for NXT, which means NXT call-ups will most likely, whoever's going to be called up will work those tapings. It's already confirmed Bayley and Finn Balor worked those tapings, as well as Nakamura. All three are rumored, but two more have been rumored as well for call-up. And all of those three have been called up, or at least rumored to be called up, forever now. It's been fucking documented about Balor and Bayley. Bayley's fucking been going back to last year about being called up. Balor, we've been teasing the fucking inclusion of him in with the club, and I don't know what's going on with that. So they look like they're going to be working up until NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Most notably, Kevin Owens and Sasha Banks, both NXT champions, by their call-up, would work the NXT brand for a bit after. So that happened with both Banks and Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn also worked in NXT after he was called up, finishing off the brand after an amazing match with Nakamura in Dallas. American Alpha will probably do the favors to the Authors of Pain on their way out and may come in the week after the WWE draft. Calling them up for the first live SmackDown after the draft would probably be the best thing the company could do, rather than have them as part of the draft itself. It would really make sense for them to come in not knowing they could be separated. Fuck that. Absolutely fuck that. None of the teams in WWE should be separated. You guys know how I feel about that. None of them should be separated. If you really want the tag team division to thrive, you have to keep the teams together. And I stated this so many fucking times all over the place. If you're going to draft the New Day, you're drafting all three men. If you're going to draft Enzo and Cass, you're drafting both men. If you're drafting the Dudleys, American Alpha, Breezango, if you're fucking drafting any of these tag teams, you are taking the duo or the trio. Okay, you're not splitting nobody up. You're not fucking grabbing Bubba Ray. You're not grabbing Enzo. You're not grabbing Big Cass solo. That would be a fucking terrible mistake because there's been rumors going around that they could be split. You know, Vince McMahon's got a fucking hard-on for Big Cass, so who the fuck knows what his mindset is right now. But if you're going to draft a tag team, you're going to draft both of them and not one. Okay, but American Alpha, listen, if they're going to split the tag teams, they got to go to SmackDown. Okay, if you're going to make two fucking divisions, if you're going to make two fucking titles, American Alpha has to go to the blue brand. No question. I want them and what they bring to the table, and I want their fucking wrestling expertise, and I want their style on SmackDown, because Michael Cole, JBL, and Byron Saxton will do them absolutely no fucking justice. That type of team and what they bring to the table needs Ronaldo on the fucking microphone. I don't give a shit. So if WWE's plan is to split the teams and have two separate titles, American Alpha needs to go to SmackDown. Okay? You can put the fucking Dudleys and the New Day and all this other fucking mainstream garbage on Monday Night Raw and have it fed to Michael Cole. But if you want teams like American Alpha and the Revival and whoever else that has wrestling ability, you want them on SmackDown, because Mauro Ranallo is the best thing since Jim Ross. And you need him to call that type of style. Michael Cole, JBL, and Byron Saxton, forget about it. Instead of calling the in-ring action and making it feel important, they're making you think that sleep is more important. So fuck that. American Alpha, I'm happy for them. They are absolutely fucking fantastic. If you missed the match at TakeOver the End against the Revival, do yourselves a favor and go watch what tag team wrestling is supposed to be on the main roster. Because what those guys did, what those four guys did at TakeOver, you have not seen on the main roster in fucking years. Decades. So, American Alpha being called up to the main roster, thanks to Vince McMahon, he made the decision to have them drop the titles at TakeOver and have the Revival crowned the two-time NXT Tag Team Champions. Quite the surprise there. Vince McMahon wants both Jordan and Gable on the main roster. Speaking of Vince McMahon gives Triple H the green light to bring more talent from NXT to the main roster. In a continuation from the first report, Vince McMahon has had something of a change of heart when it comes to WWE's developmental system. It's Triple H's show, and we know that, but Vince judges their worth only by how they perform on the main roster. Right then and there, the guy's making a fucking mistake. He judges their worth by what they do on the main roster. Yes, I understand getting over with the crowd is important, but you cannot have that be the only determining factor. These guys work their fucking ass off to get noticed by you. And if you instill that in everybody's head, that if you are successful, the only way to prove your worth to Vince McMahon is by fucking proving yourself on the main roster. Fuck that. These guys could work 3, 4, 5 years down in NXT developmental, and then all of a sudden, all those years of hard work is fucking flushed down the toilet because Vince McMahon, he doesn't seem to think you're worthy because you can't get over on the main roster. It's because half of the fucking people he brought up to the main roster were not given a fair opportunity. Fuck that. So, alrighty. That opening line to this fucking report is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. It's a good system for the company. The game creates the stars of tomorrow, and Vince McMahon makes them superstars for the WWE. It's obviously more complex, but that's the essence of it. According to a recent report from DWN, DailyWrestlingNews.com, Vince McMahon has been up in the air about NXT for quite some time. I don't know why. They're putting on the best fucking television for your company. For example, Tyler Breeze and The Ascension are genuinely seen as flops. Tyler Breeze is a flop. I wonder why. That's because Vince McMahon had some negative feelings about developmental, but recent superstars like Kevin Owens and Big Cass have swayed him to think differently. Vince, listen to this. Look at how fucked up Vince McMahon is. Look, Vince isn't sold still on Sami Zayn or the Vaudevillains, but he is absolutely sold on Big Cass and sees him as a big money player in the future. So, everything that Sami Zayn has done for you, dating back to fucking WrestleMania weekend with that amazing match with Nakamura, and what he's done on the main roster since you did call him up, you're not sold on Sami Zayn. I mean, I don't know what else the guy's got to fucking do to make you believe in Sami Zayn. I mean, what does he got to do? Does he got to fucking wrestle himself out of fucking incoming traffic? I mean, what does this guy got to do to fucking get over with Vince McMahon? I don't get it. Sami Zayn, all he's got to do is get into the ring, and he's got a winner right there. You made a believer out of me. All you got to do is watch Takeover. You were there. You were watching. You don't believe in Sami Zayn? What happened with Nakamura at Dallas? The 25 minutes those guys were in the ring, and you sitting in gorilla position, should have been all you needed to know. So he doesn't believe in Sami Zayn. He's not sold on Sami Zayn, but Big Cass, who I love, don't get me wrong. I love Big Cass. But Vince McMahon has a big hard-on for Big Cass for no reason. Big Cass is not there yet. Big Cass is no Sami Zayn. Okay? Big Cass is going to thrive in a tag team role right now, but Vince McMahon is too quick to make him a young Diesel. Not yet. Okay? I don't see Big Cass turning into a fucking WWE champion like Diesel was, beating Bob Backlund in 8 seconds at Madison Square Garden. I don't see that happening anytime soon with Big Cass. Slow your roll and give Big Cass and Enzo a run in the tag team division where they belong. Let Sami Zayn continue to prove you wrong in what he does in the ring. I don't know. I don't know. Am I crazy? He isn't sold on Sami Zayn. I don't know. Vaudevillains are another story. Listen, I'm sold on the Vaudevillains. They're just not getting a fair fucking chance. Oh, because the gimmick is fucking old and it's cheesy and it's stupid. Okay. But what does that have to do with them in the ring? I mean, the crowd, you poison the fucking audience to the point where you bring out something like that, they're not going to appreciate it. They don't even appreciate half the shit you do on a regular basis. You're going to bring out something that's creative and fucking took time and thought to create? You're going to put that in front of the audience and have them be like, okay, this is cool. No, you brainwash these fucking people to think nothing but Roman. Ramen. That's all you fucking made these people into. You brainwashed everybody. So when something like that, like I said, comes out and it's creative and it's different, it's not the usual shit you see on WWE television, it's automatically fucking trashed because, oh, it's not over with the crowd. Why isn't it over with the crowd? Because your fucking product is not over with the crowd. Your product is fucking terrible. They were over in NXT. So what's the problem? You got idiots watching your show on the main roster, but all the smart people are watching NXT, and they appreciate fucking talent and creativity and in-ring skill. On the main roster, they don't give a shit. As long as your name is Roman Reigns, that's it. That's all they fucking care about. And John Cena. Whatever. Either way, Vince has apparently given the game green lights to bring up more talent this summer and fall as the brand extension is established over the next several months. Oh, wow, Vince McMahon. Oh, are you giving Triple H the green light? Okay, great. There's prime talent in NXT, and it's called Your Future. the future of your business. Let Triple H do what he's got to do, okay? So, of course, Vince McMahon is giving Triple H the green light. You know, let's see how long Triple H sits at that fucking red light before he actually promotes anybody, because I know he doesn't want to let any of them fucking go. I'll tell you that right now. AJ Styles will be the next guest on the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. This is very interesting. If you guys have not noticed this yet or found out about the news, people love the Stone Cold podcast. I don't know why it's called a fucking podcast. It's a sit-down interview. It's not downloadable. It's not fucking digital. You know, I don't know if this goes up on his fucking Podcast One shit, but when it airs, it's not a podcast. It's a interview. Okay? It's not a podcast yet. It could be made into a podcast, but I love how WWE tries to build interest and pretty much, I don't know, suck off the name of Stone Cold Steve Austin and podcast, because he's got the best podcast, or at least the most popular podcast, digitally, out of all the wrestlers that are doing it. It's just not the excuse to see Stone Cold Steve Austin talk about wrestling with a big star for an hour or more. Austin is also respected and well-liked within the company and industry, that he doesn't necessarily need to pull punches, and he offers a great interview with rough questions depending on the guest. The list of people that wrestling fans want to see on the show is a mile long, with The Undertaker, The Rock, and others at the top of the list. We still may end up seeing those eventually, but WWE has announced that AJ Styles will be appearing on the podcast the night after Money in the Bank in only 9 days. It will be a live podcast episode on the WWE Network, and it will take place immediately following Monday Night Raw. Austin and Styles are no doubt going to discuss Styles' heel turn, his work outside of WWE, his feud with John Cena, and much, much more. Of course, the interview will take place after Cena vs. Styles on Money in the Bank, so there will be a lot to discuss from that alone. Hopefully, AJ Styles is on the receiving end of a W and not looking at a fucking L after Money in the Bank. So that's going to be interesting. The most interesting portion of this podcast are definitely going to be him talking about the Bullet Club and his work in Japan. Maybe they'll, indirectly reference TNA and his thought and mind process coming into the WWE. Maybe they'll talk about how he feels, his direction is in WWE and how he feels the club and himself are being booked, how they thought they were going to be booked. I don't know, man. So it's definitely going to be interesting. AJ Styles on the Stone Cold podcast the night after Money in the Bank, following Monday Night Raw. So look forward to that in just 9 days. And finally, guys, I'm going to end with this, a big Brock Lesnar story. Brock Lesnar won't be required to test for doping before UFC 200. At UFC 200, Brock Lesnar will face Mark Hunt in his first fight in 4 years inside the octagon. Mark Hunt came out publicly and stated that Brock Lesnar is juiced to the gills, meaning that he's pumped up with fucking steroids. The only reason that is possible is because of his previous status as a superstar for UFC. However, that is now granting him a special privilege. According to ShareDog.com, Brock Lesnar has been granted a USADA exemption, which means he won't be required to test for UFC's anti-doping policy. Apparently, Lesnar and UFC have found a loophole, so Lesnar can compete in 1 month's time, and UFC issued the following statement regarding Lesnar's exemption from the anti-doping policy. Okay, before I read this, Lesnar was tested, and those test results are due back early next week. Hopefully, if I am off, I will give you guys a video on those results next week. So look forward to that, because I'm interested, and I'll give you my thoughts on this before we end part 2 today. On June 6, 2016, UFC heavyweight Brock Lesnar was registered by USADA into the UFC anti-doping policy testing pool. As part of the UFC anti-doping policy, UFC may grant a former athlete an exemption to the 4-month written notice rules in exceptional circumstances or where the strict application of that rule would be manifestly unfair to an athlete. Manifestly unfair to an athlete. Given Lesnar last competed in the UFC on December 30th, 2011, long before the UFC anti-doping policy went into effect. For purposes of the anti-doping policy, he is treated similarly to a new athlete coming into the organization. While conversations with the heavyweight have been ongoing for some time, Lesnar required permission from WWE to compete in UFC 200 and only agreed to terms and signed a bout agreement last Friday. He was therefore unable to officially start the anti-doping policy process any earlier. UFC, however, did notify Lesnar in the early stages of discussions that if he were to sign with the UFC, he would be subject to all of the anti-doping rules. Lesnar and his management have now been formally educated by USADA on the policy, procedures, and expectations. The entire world knows at this point that Brock Lesnar is returning to the octagon at UFC 200 to fight Mark Hunt in the first fight in 4 years that he's had. For Brock Lesnar, it is a way to get the monkey off his back because he doesn't want to live with the way his full-time run in UFC ended. For WWE, this is a way to get some much appreciated press for SummerSlam. One of the few issues WWE may run into is a potential injury to Lesnar that will make his appearance at the event questionable. SummerSlam is roughly 6 weeks after UFC 200, so everything should just be fine. Just to make sure, it's going to be a requirement that Lesnar is medically cleared to compete at the biggest show of the summer for WWE. According to a report from Daily Wrestling News, the New York State Athletic Commission confirmed this news, and Laz Benitez of the NYSAC issued the following statement on this matter. Potential participation by Mr. Lesnar in an August WWE event would depend on his medical fitness and physical condition at the time of the professional wrestling show. No person is allowed to participate in a professional wrestling exhibition in New York State until he or she is cleared medically fit to do so by a New York State licensed physician. Fuck New York, okay? Fuck them. You know, can't stand this fucking state. There's a reason why I want to get the fuck out of here. It's because they fucking live with sticks up their asses all day long. Fuck these people. All right? Lesnar will be fine. But Lesnar will be tested. He will be drug tested. And the results will be due back on Tuesday or Wednesday, okay? Now, they did find a loophole. Obviously, Mark Hunt takes to the airwaves and takes to the interviews that he's conducting and says, oh, this is unfair, and Lesnar is juiced to the gills. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fucking roided up. You know, the typical bullshit. The typical low blows, you know, trying to get into that WWE-esque mentality, cheap-shotting your opponent. It is what it is, man. You know, this, obviously, everybody figured that, oh, if Lesnar's not being fucking tested, you know, this is not fair to everybody else, but it's not his fault if there's a fucking loophole in the contract. He hasn't competed in since 2011, and now that he's back in 2016, 5 years later, you know, they're treating it as if he is a new athlete coming into the organization. This is in the fucking policy. So, you can go kiss my ass, Mark Hunt. It's in the policy. Now, just for the fuck of it, I think Lesnar should be tested anyway, just because, you know, you don't want to treat someone better than others. You know, everybody has to be tested. I don't give a shit if you're fucking Jesus Christ and you come down from the heavens and you're going to be sitting front row at fucking UFC. I don't give a shit if you're automatically Jesus Christ and thrusted into a UFC championship match to main event the show. You have to be fucking tested. If everybody else is being tested, you have to be tested. It's fair. It makes everybody seem equal. That automatically starts problems and fucking, oh, look at this guy getting special treatment. Who the fuck is he? He's coming in from the WWE. He's not a real fighter. You know, he doesn't do this for a living like we do. He fights in that fake sport. All the same bullshit, you know? But as far as Lesnar goes and this test, he should be tested for the simple fact that it creates equality for everybody. And that's the fact. But as far as Lesnar being tested and the results coming back on Tuesday, I don't think Lesnar's roided up. I don't think Lesnar is fucking going to test positive for steroids, because if he did, then his contract with WWE would be in jeopardy, then his fucking status with WWE would be in jeopardy, and then WWE would have no fucking, they would have no choice but to fucking suspend Brock Lesnar, and what that'll do for the fucking shareholders and the stocks, forget about it. You know how much money Vince McMahon would lose if Brock Lesnar is suspended due to fucking the wellness policy? Lesnar's not stupid. Lesnar's a genetic freak naturally. I don't think he's fucking going to test positive at all. I don't think he's doping. I don't think he's fucking roided up. It's not possible to me. And Lesnar would be fucking putting his entire career at risk. And for someone who loves money like Brock Lesnar does, I don't think Lesnar's going to ever put himself and his money and his contract and his livelihood in jeopardy to fucking, inject himself with fucking HGH, man. It's stupid. It's stupid. But there is a loophole here, and Mark Hunt can go kiss everybody's ass. He's juiced to the gills. Yeah, I hope Mark Hunt is taken down and he's fucking tapped out in the first round. Fuck out of here, man. Lesnar will be at UFC 200. He'll be fine. I think he's going to beat Mark Hunt, though I'm not familiar with Mark Hunt. All you guys are saying that he's got some vicious fucking fists. Listen, every time I see Brock Lesnar fight, I get a little bit nervous because I want him to succeed, but there's always doubt in my mind that he's going to that something bad is going to go wrong. But Lesnar now is healthy. He's feeling the fucking best he's ever felt. He doesn't have any fucking diverticulitis setbacks. He wasn't feeling great. He pushed himself and he forced himself, and he paid the consequences. He came back too soon. He thought he was ready up here, but his body was absolutely not ready. Now, he's ready up here. He's ready physically. He's in the best shape of his fucking life. He knows what he's got to do. He's going to be training, and I think Lesnar's going to come out on top, go into SummerSlam, and have a successful summer, and he's going to make a boatload of money, and it's going to be great to see, man, both for UFC and WWE. That's all I got, guys. Off the Script, Part 2. For episode 121, make sure you guys check the description for everything you need for this channel, man. T-shirts, Twitter, YouTube, WrestleCrate, Wrestle Rumble, the podcast on iTunes and PodBean, everything you need, plus all my videos this week linked down below in the description. I'll be back with Part 3. Big news on Ronda Rousey and WrestleMania 33, and big news on Bray Wyatt and his return to the WWE, with WWE possibly letting Luke Harper go solo once again. For what and why, I have no fucking idea. Like, that was really fucking successful the first time around. Give me a break. But that's going to be on Part 3, guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you did enjoy, hit that thumbs up, and I'll be back with more great WWE content right here on Off the Script for Part 3. Have a great Saturday, and I'll see you all on Sunday morning. Take care.